Alright guys, in this video I'm going to talk about cadences. So in one of your assessment pieces you need to identify some cadences in a song that you're given. You'll be given some music and amongst many other things, and one of the things you'll need to do is identify some cadences within that music. So cadence is basically just two chords, and there are different types of cadences. When we talk about cadences, we talk about Roman numeral chords, like chord 5 to chord 1, that kind of stuff. So that's the terminology I'll be using for cadences. Let me just straighten up a little bit here. That's better. And cadences are two chords that are often, always put at the end of a phrase. Now, some of those cadences will sound like the phrase is coming to an end because it'll finish on chord 1, and then you'll get some more interrupted type cadences where it doesn't really resolve. It's more like a punctuation, like a comma in a sentence. I'll explain. So let's talk about the first cadence, which is the most common one or the easiest one to start with, which is what we call a perfect cadence, which is called, I'll play these examples as well. Perfect cadence is chord 5 to chord 1. You hear that a lot at the end of songs. It sounds very resolved. So I'll just write that up. Perfect. So chord 5 to chord 1. Let's have a listen to see what that sounds like. I'll just do it in C major. So chord 5 to chord 1. So we're in C. That's our tonic. So chord 5 to 1. So that is the reason it's given the name perfect. It sounds very resolved. 5 to 1. Next one is what we call plagal. I hope I get the correct spelling. Chord 4 to 1. Don't quote me on that spelling. I think it's correct. Spelling is not my strong point. Chord 4 to 1. It still sounds resolved, but it's not as perfect as a perfect cadence, 5 to 1. So let me play a plagal cadence, which is chord 4 to 1. So here's a question for you. If we're in the key of C major, what are those two chords? Chord 4 to 1. I'll play it and then you can tell me afterwards. So here we go. This is our key. So a plagal cadence, 4 to 1. Okay. So what were those two chords? What's chord 4 and chord 1 in C major? Of course, it's F to C. Plagal cadences are often used in religious music. I'm not sure how many people here have listened to too much religious music, but it's often when they say Amen or sing Amen, apparently, that's quite often a plagal cadence. 4 to 1, Amen. So that's a plagal cadence. They both are resolved. They both sound complete, and you often see those at the end of a song. So let's do the next one. There's a few in this category. These are called imperfect. So they're kind of the opposite of a perfect cadence. So that's basically where a cadence will go from pretty much any chord to chord 5. So it's very unresolved. So you might have, for instance, chord 2 to 5. Let me just consult my notes. Yes, I thought so. Chord 1 to 5, so the opposite of a perfect. And you might even get 4 to 5. So really anything then going to the chord 5. So you're not really going to see these at the end of a song. You might, there's rules are there to be broken. I'm sure you'll find a lot of examples of songs that finish on chord 5. The most famous example of a song that finishes on chord 5, because the reason it's not done very often is it doesn't sound finished. But sometimes people want that effect. And there's a really famous song that has this feel. I don't know if it's a song by Queen. There's a little hint, which is classic. It's known for its is it going to end? I remember once I performed this. I taught at a school, and we did this in the school rock band, and we were playing the song, and we got to the end, and we did the 5 chord and we finished on the 5 chord, and the audience were like, they didn't know whether to clap or not because they didn't know whether to finish because it didn't sound like it finished, and they eventually, what felt like forever, came in with a clap. The song, of course, is We Are the Champions. Now, I've got a feeling when they do it live, they actually might resolve it, but if you listen to the recorded version, I'm fairly certain it's in the key of F, I think, and I think it finishes on a C chord, which is the 5 chord of F major. So check out the end of We Are the Champions. It's an example of a song finishing on an imperfect cadence. I can't remember what the chord before chord 5 is, but it definitely finishes on 5. And there'll be lots of other examples. But that's an imperfect cadence. Quite often used within a song, rarely used at the end of a song, but sometimes. So as I said, that could be any of these ones, as long as it goes to a chord 5. I won't play that. Let's just talk about the next one, which is an interrupted. I'm not going to try and spell interrupted. How many double letters has that got? I don't know. An interrupted cadence, which is 5 to 6. I'll try and spell it. I'm not sure if it's got 2 R's or not. Interrupted. Not sure. Anyway, that's a interrupted cadence. So chord 5 to 6, quite often used within a song. Okay, so it's a little bit of an odd thing, cadences. If you've never heard of cadences before, it's a bit of like, what? Why bother? But it's a thing. It's actually it's used a lot in classical music. But it is a thing, you know, and they're the main ones. Actually, they're pretty much all the cadences. So I'll just summarize them quickly again. You've got your perfect cadence, chord 5 to 1, very resolved, that's why it's called perfect. Plagal, 4 to 1, used a lot in religious music. Once again, sounds resolved, finishes on chord 1. Imperfect, okay, that's the opposite of perfect. Anything that goes to the 5 sounds very unresolved. It feels like it needs to be resolved to something. And then you've got your interrupted. I guess, you know, that it might sort of start to sound like a perfect cadence, but actually goes to chord 6. I might just play you the interrupted cadence, sorry. So here's your tonic. So this is an interrupted cadence, chord 5 to 6. Okay, so that's your interrupted cadence. So, as I said, just to finish off on this video, for your second assessment in theory, you will be given some music, sheet music, and you have to analyse it. And there's lots of things you have to do, but one of the things you need to do is identify some cadences within that song. So, for that, the music won't have Roman numerals on it. You'll have to work that out. So you might. So what I might do now is just write a quick little chord progression, and we might see if we can identify some cadences within that chord progression, because this will be more relevant as to what you do. As I said, the music you get won't have Roman numerals. You'll have to work it out. So here's a quick chord progression. Okay, fairly, you know, I've chosen C. So I think if you're going to do this, if you can see that easily, there's a couple of cadences in there. If you can see that easily, great. If you can't, that's fine. I think what you should do is write the Roman numerals above the chords. And then they'll stick out like, you know what. So C is chord 1, A minor is chord 6, F is chord 4, G is chord 5. I'll keep going. So if you want, pause the video there and see if you can identify some cadences in there. So let's do it. So first of all, we have, let's just go with 2 cadences. at the end of each line. Okay, so what's at the end of the first line? We have 4 to 5. What kind of cadence is that? Well, it's an imperfect cadence. Okay, so there, I'm going to put IM. Imperfect cadence, 4 to 5. Anything to 5 is a imperfect cadence. And then at the end, we of course have, right over there, 5 to 1, which is perfect. Okay, so there's your perfect cadence. So that's what you'll need to do in your assessment. You'll be given the actual chords, work out what key you're in, what the Roman numerals are, and then work out some cadences in them. Cool, so hopefully you understand that. That's cadences.